00 hours, Western Pacific Ocean. The sea was calm, but beneath that silence, two rival powers were preparing for one of the most tense naval standoffs in recent years. According to sources obtained by Global Warfare Report, satellite imagery captured from early September 2025 revealed that China's Shandong and Fujian aircraft carriers had both departed Hainan Island within 12 hours of each other, heading east straight into the Pacific. At the same time, 1,200 nautical miles away, the U.S. Navy's Carrier Strike Group 5, led by the USS Ronald Reagan, was conducting joint drills with Japanese forces near Guam. By 2:16 hours, radar operators aboard the destroyer USS Barry picked up faint signatures, large, slow-moving vessels traveling in formation. Within minutes, analysts confirmed they were Chinese. The Pacific was about to witness its most dangerous power move in years. 0304 hours, south of Okinawa, a classified naval intelligence brief, later obtained by defense insiders, revealed the Chinese formation, the Fujian CV-18, China's newest and largest aircraft carrier, leading the formation, the Shandong CV-17, operating 40 nautical miles astern, escorted by 4 Type 055 Renhai-class cruisers and 6 Type 052D destroyers. This wasn't a training mission. Intercepted communications, claimed by sources close to U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, suggested the Chinese fleet's objective was to shadow and challenge the U.S. Strike Group's operations east of the Philippines, a move analysts interpreted as a direct attempt to project deterrence before upcoming U.S.-Japan naval exercises. At 0347 hours, reconnaissance aircraft from the USS Ronald Reagan were launched, E-2D Hawkeyes and 2 FA-18 Super Hornets, to establish visual contact. The first confirmation came within 30 minutes. 2 massive silhouettes on the horizon, aircraft elevators visible, deck crews moving fast. 4:22 hours, eyes on contact. An intercepted log from a U.S. Navy pilot described what he saw. 2 Chinese flat tops, both active. Flight decks operational. One appears to be conducting simulated launch drills. No weapons visible, but they're not here for training. Within 10 minutes, 6 J-15 carrier-based fighters took off from Shandong, flying in loose patrol formation toward the U.S. fleet. In response, 4 FA-18 Super Hornets from Carrier Air Wing. 5 scrambled, maintaining a 50-mile air separation corridor, standard for deterrence encounters. No missiles were fired, but this was not a routine intercept. According to defense monitors, the Fujian's advanced electromagnetic catapult systems, China's first, were activated for the first time at sea. This suggested Beijing wasn't simply posturing, it was testing its ability to sustain a real carrier confrontation. 0518 hours. The diplomatic window closes in Washington. The Pentagon received the full satellite feed from the encounter. By dawn, U.S. Indo-Pacific Command raised the readiness level for all ships in the Philippine Sea to Condition 2, one step short of active engagement. Meanwhile, in Beijing, state media praised the carrier's deployment as routine maritime defense activity, but defense analysts quietly noted that it was the first dual-carrier combat patrol ever conducted by the People's Liberation Army Navy beyond the first island chain. According to classified defense sources, one encrypted communication between Chinese Task Force Command and the Southern Theater Command contained a chilling phrase: "The Americans will see what lies beyond the second chain." That message triggered what naval officers later described as a tactical shadowing operation. 0642 hours, tension at 50 miles. As both sides maneuvered within striking range, electronic warfare systems began probing for weaknesses. U.S. radar operators aboard the USS Barry and USS Higgins detected brief radar jamming bursts emanating from the Chinese cruiser Lhasa. The interference lasted only 12 seconds, but it was enough to disrupt drone telemetry temporarily. The U.S. response was immediate. 2 EA-18G Growlers, electronic warfare aircraft, were deployed to counterjam. They broadcast powerful signals over 200 nautical miles, blinding Chinese early warning radars for several minutes. Observers at the Pentagon described this as a digital knife fight at sea. No missiles fired, no shots exchanged, yet both sides testing the other's cyber resilience in real time. 7:10 hours. hours. Lock warning. At approximately 7:10, a US P-8, a Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft flying south of the Chinese formation, reported an alarming development. A Type 055 destroyer had locked its fire control radar on the Poseidon for 18 seconds before disengaging. According to sources close to Global Warfare Report, this was the first recorded radar lock on a U.S. reconnaissance aircraft since late 2024. One officer later stated they knew exactly what they were doing. It was a message that they're willing to take this to the edge. 0724 hours. Operation Calm Tide. The U.S. Navy issued an internal alert codenamed Calm Tide, instructing all vessels in the carrier group to maintain defensive formations and avoid provocative movements. However, behind the scenes, Admiral Jeremy Thornton, commander of the U.S. 7th Fleet, authorized what sources described as a mirror shadow maneuver. 4 U.S. destroyers repositioned to flank the Fujian and Shandong at an exact mirrored distance, 52 nautical miles, ensuring the Chinese fleet could not move east without U.S. surveillance. For 6 hours, both sides sailed in silent formation, separated by just 50 miles of open ocean, a razor's edge of peace. But as dawn rose over the Pacific, new intelligence came in from Guam, and what it revealed would push both fleets to the brink of the most dangerous naval standoff since the Cold War. 8:03 hours, Philippines Sea, Western Pacific. The horizon was painted gray and still, but beneath it, the Pacific trembled with silent tension. For nearly 6 hours, the U.S. Navy's Carrier Strike Group 5 and China's Twin Carrier Task Force had shadowed one another, each testing the other's nerve, sensors, and resolve. At 0803 hours, the uneasy calm broke. A U.S. reconnaissance drone, a high-altitude RQ-4C Triton, relayed encrypted footage showing 2 J-15 fighter jets armed with live ordnance launching from the Shandong. At the same time, 2 USF A-18 Super Hornets scrambled from the USS Ronald Reagan. Both sides went airborne within minutes, closing distance fast. According to sources obtained by Global Warfare Report, the Chinese aircraft were ordered to demonstrate aerial dominance, a move U.S. intelligence later described as a calculated act of intimidation, not a training drill. 8:17 hours, painted by fire control. As the 2 U.S. fighters crossed the 60-mile intercept line, radar warnings flashed inside the cockpits, the unmistakable alert of a fire control lock. A Chinese destroyer, later identified as the Nanchang, had locked onto the U.S. aircraft for 11 seconds before cutting transmission. For U.S. pilots, that was no accident. It was a warning. The pilots immediately descended to sea level, using the waves for radar masking while maintaining radio silence. Aboard the USS Barry, combat systems operators armed the SM-2 surface-to-air missiles, not to fire, but to let the other side know the American fleet was awake. A Navy source told Global Warfare Report, for 10 seconds, both sides had kill confirmations on their screens. That's how close it got. 9:22 hours, electronic shadows. What came next wasn't visible on radar, but every ship's sensor operator felt it. Suddenly, multiple encrypted frequencies in the area were jammed. Communications between the U.S. destroyers and the Ronald Reagan glitched, replaced by bursts of white static. According to unverified defense communications reviewed later, the interference originated from a Chinese Type 055 cruiser, likely the Lhasa, equipped with high-power electromagnetic warfare suites. In response, 2 USEA 18G Growlers launched from the carrier deck, initiating a counter-electronic suppression operation. For nearly 30 minutes, both navies exchanged invisible blows, digital warfare at sea. No gunfire, no missiles, only silence, distortion, and the unblinking rhythm of cyber conflict. 10:05 hours, unidentified contact bearing 072. At 10:05, sonar aboard the USS Higgins picked up a fast-moving underwater contact, 41 knots, deep, heading directly toward the fleet. Submarine Command confirmed it wasn't American. The pattern matched a Type 093B Chinese nuclear attack submarine, trailing just 26 nautical miles from the Ronald Reagan. Moments later, U.S. anti-submarine warfare teams deployed 2 MH-60R Seahawk helicopters armed with Mk-54 torpedoes. The situation was classified as Phase 2 contact. the Navy's second highest readiness code for underwater threats. According to a naval officer stationed on the Higgins, "We knew they wanted to make us flinch, but we weren't the ones about to blink 11 hours. The counter move." By late morning, the U.S. Fleet Commander issued a direct order: initiate Shadow Dome Protocol. 4 U.S. ships broke formation and circled the Chinese fleet from the east, locking them within a broad electronic surveillance grid. Every movement, every bearing, every radar ping from the Fujian and Shandong was tracked and mirrored. At the same time, a P-8A Poseidon patrol aircraft dropped sonobuoys across the region, forming an acoustic barrier 70 miles wide. Sources claim the Chinese submarine soon reversed course, surfacing 58 miles south of its last known position, shadowed by a U.S. destroyer drone from Guam. 12:03 hours, sky flash. As both fleets maintained distance, the sky above erupted with light, not gunfire, but flares. 2 Chinese J-15s had crossed dangerously close to U.S. airspace, prompting an automatic defensive flare release from American fighters. For a split second, the Pacific became a canvas of fire, streaks of white and red over blue water. But within minutes, control returned. No shots fired, no missiles launched, only the echo of what almost was. A senior officer later told defense reporters, "That wasn't a skirmish. That was chess played at supersonic speed. 13:47 hours, the message." By early afternoon, both fleets were ordered to disengage. China's Fujian turned west toward Hainan. The USS Ronald Reagan and her escorts held position for 90 minutes, watching the horizon as the twin Chinese carriers faded into the haze. But before they left, an encrypted transmission was intercepted, believed to be from a Chinese carrier group commander to shore-based command. American resolve confirmed. Tactical assessment complete U.S. Navy intelligence analysts interpreted the message as clear acknowledgement. Beijing had tested U.S. reaction time and discipline under pressure. They got their answer. 15-22 hours. Aftermath. When news of the encounter reached Washington and Beijing, both sides issued carefully worded statements. China's defense ministry called it a routine navigation exercise. The Pentagon called it an unsafe and unprofessional maneuver near U.S. operations. Behind closed doors, however, military officials knew this was more than a test of proximity. It was a test of endurance, technology, and willpower. And though no missiles were fired, the Pacific had silently hosted one of the most advanced real-time standoffs in modern naval history. A senior analyst at Global Warfare Report summed it up best. Both sides walked the edge, and both lived to sail another day. But next time, it may not end this quietly. As the sun set over the Pacific, the world was reminded the ocean doesn't forget who sails its waters. And in those waves, between radar pings and silence, one truth stood clear. Power may speak softly, but its echoes can shake the world.